Right, Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and that means the holiday travel season is almost here. And if you're traveling, you better get ready to pay up. Fewer flights, fuel prices, pent-up demand, pushing airfares to a 5-year high. They're up just 25% from just a year ago. Joining us now for a little bit more about what we could expect, we want to bring in Melanie Lieberman, the Points Guy, Senior Global Features Editor. Melanie, it's great to see you. So let's first talk about the price and the fact that it doesn't seem like it is curbing demand at all. At least that's the expectation. Is that consistent with what you're seeing so far?
Absolutely. Americans are ready to travel. They've missed their holiday trips and they're ready to get back out there, regardless of how much they're going to be paying in airfare.
I just went to Disney and it was insane. Every single hotel room on the park was booked. They are making changes, though. They are making some cutbacks. Where and how?
Yeah, we're across the travel industry. We're really seeing providers try to manage expectations from travelers and also make sure they don't overextend themselves. That's what we saw during the summer travel season, where there was just a ton of cancellations and delays because they couldn't keep up with the demand. So travelers should expect to see some cutbacks, in terms of room service, that kind of thing. And for airlines, that means reducing schedules so that they can, again, keep up with the demand.
Yeah, we're seeing the airlines make changes. Also, travelers are making changes as well, just because they are facing much higher costs. What are some things that travelers are doing this holiday season that we haven't necessarily seen in the past?
Yeah, well, the good news is that we're seeing sort of a flatter holiday travel period. So that means that they're leaving earlier for their trips. They're coming home later. They're playing around with the duration of their stay in order to kind of avoid some of those really, really inflated prices. We're also just in general seeing them take advantage of some of those flexible policies, going to different destinations. They're getting very creative when it comes to booking trips.
Was really surprised to see 36% of travelers opted to stay with family and friends rather than a stay in a hotel in order to save money. Interesting trend we're seeing.
Makes sense.
It does make sense, unless you don't like your in-laws, which I do. I love mine.
Vacation.
Love mine. So it's a little late for Thanksgiving travel to buy your flights. What are expectations in terms of travel loads? Are we nearing 2019 levels? And pushing to Christmas, any tips on how to save money?
Yeah, demand is really high. Travelers should expect full flights and not a ton of options if you haven't booked yet. So for those people who are thinking about those Christmas flights, New Year's flights, and they haven't booked yet, I wouldn't wait another minute. I would really make sure you lock in those trips and all those travel plans right now.
Melanie, you mentioned people are going to different destinations because of what we're seeing. What are some of those top destinations that we haven't necessarily seen on the list in years past?
Yeah, well, I mean, domestic airfare is through the roof. So a lot of travelers are looking abroad. Europe, Central, South America in particular, are particularly popular for people who are hoping to change things up and find a good deal. That's where people are looking when they need to get creative.
But what about some last minute tips, though, in terms of Christmas flights? Obviously get on it now. That is obvious, or a month ago. But what else can people do right now if they still haven't locked anything in?
Well, first thing you want to do is set an airfare alert. Make sure that you know what is average for your price ticket in case there is any wiggle room in terms of finding a good deal. We also want travelers to think about booking the first flight out so that they can avoid some of those delays and cancellations that you see when you have a later flight. And again, think about being flexible with the day you travel, the time of day. If you can fly on Christmas, that will help you avoid some of the pain of the travels before and after. There you go.
I am traveling on Thanksgiving and on Christmas to save money.
You are doing exactly what we say. You're getting creative, and that's one way to go about it.
Melanie,
times are tough.
What about any upcoming travel deals? We were just talking earlier in the show about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Maybe we'll see more discounts in the coming weeks. Is that at all reflected in the travel industry?
I think it's going to be a really competitive space for a while. Again, we've seen nothing but really strong demand all year round. And so I'm really thinking that travelers are going to need to stay on top of it, set those deal alerts. You can find a good deal, but again, got to be creative.
The final question is, pushing forward into 23, do we see prices begin to level out and demand beginning to come down, or is this a new post-COVID travel world in which we live?
We may see a little bit of softening. Always off the holidays, things are going to soften a little bit. But I think that we're going to see strong demand for a while, particularly as the industry continues to try to ramp up.
And Melanie, we've covered the pilot shortage at length, the fact that airliners can't seem to get nearly enough workers that they need at this point. So as a result, like you were saying before, they've altered some of their routes, they've cut down on flights. Any idea or do you have any insight just in terms of how significantly that situation has improved and when we could expect some of those flights to be re-added?
Well, airlines definitely learned their lesson this summer, so they've been really, really proactive about trying to hire and incentivize their teams, particularly, again, through the busy holiday season. Hopefully, we will continue to see improvements, but I think we're all still looking for that crystal ball that'll tell us exactly what's going to happen.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Melanie Lieberman from The Points Guy, appreciate that. Thanks for being here in studio.